Is this a great game or what? We've got three special guests today. You know, my dad, the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian, not sitting in a co-host seat today. No, I'm going to be interviewing him alongside Karl Ravech and Eduardo Pérez of ESPN, the team that is doing the calls for the ALCS, Toronto Blue Jays, Seattle Mariners. Gentlemen, welcome. Hello.
Well,
Big
it's
hug.
great to be here, Jeff. And thank you so much, Eduardo and Ravvy. These are my two best friends at ESPN. We have the greatest time calling a game. We have the greatest time just hanging out, traveling together. That's what this show is going to be about. It's going to be more about our travel habits rather than baseball. Agreed?
Now, greatest time, Karl, first question to you. Is it just me, or does traveling with my dad, which, as you know, I've done 100 million times before, make it slightly less enjoyable because of the stress level that he brings to the party?
Well, I would say in the beginning it was stressful, and it's now become a great source of entertainment. I'm not stressed. I know he has been able to figure out how to get from point A to point B. It's just the different things he does between A and B that make it entertaining. Yeah, I used to be concerned. Now it's sort of like, you know, with all due respect, it's kind of like laughing at the old guy. Look, my dad, I laugh at him all the time. I kind of laugh at Tim. It starts with the size of the suitcase, Jeff. He could fit you and your sister, Kelly, into the suitcase. No one ever understood why he'd take something that you could literally park a Volkswagen Beetle in, but he does. So that's part of it. As you all know, and we've discussed many times, it's the printing of the boarding pass, which nobody does. And amazingly, Jeff, he talked about this in a positive way the other day when they were recounting a story from years ago in which they both got stranded somewhere, and because he had a paper boarding pass, he was allowed back on as if that was a badge of honor, like that was a good thing. It's not. That didn't make it a good, successful story. I'm sorry. That's a one-off. You don't need to do that. We have technology now. No.
Yes,
it doesn't mean. Look, we do baseball. Sometimes a manager makes a decision, and it turns out to be the one that works, or it doesn't. It doesn't mean it was the right one. Printing boarding passes is not required just because one time, and Eddie's shaking his head because he's agreeing. He's not going to go down the road of, thank goodness we should all do that now. No, that's not how it's going to work.
We were in Charlotte. We were trapped on an airplane in Charlotte. I was going to visit Jeffrey and deliver his car. Right, Eddie? Help me here.
Before technology was really advanced,
yep.
Tim, you were up to date. You were printing it early. I get it.
Right.
For some odd reason, we boarded. We had to deplane, and then they said because we had checked our and we had scanned it already, that now we needed to rescan it and needed to do it by hand. But those of you that have the ticket are allowed to go in. And that was the most joyful that I had seen your dad in a long time, because we were sleep deprived. We were sleep deprived coming from spring training, going to where were we?
Tim, did you see how miserable he looked in that picture you just showed us? I mean, that looked so sad. There was no joy in having a paper ticket at that moment. Look at how sad he looks. That's awful.
Look,
poor Tim.
Poor Papa. Look, Eddie doesn't even need a boarding pass. He just walks on the plane because wherever Eddie goes, nothing could possibly go wrong. And Ravvy, I want you to explain to Jeffrey how you made that flight out of Toronto the other day. That's impossible that you could make that flight. Tell him.
Jeff, Eddie has rubbed off on me. I've learned things that I never would have ever done before I met Eddie, which is, as your dad just pointed out, is to act like you belong. Eddie walks into the umpire's room before they get there. He's already eating at their table. Then they walk in. Eddie belongs there. Eddie will walk into, in Philadelphia, we get cheesesteaks. He goes in the kitchen and cooks because he acts like he belongs there. So we left that game. I was trying to catch a flight at 8:55 in Toronto, and Eduardo had given me a little warning. I'll just quickly go back. I think it was a Saturday that I left, Saturday morning I left. I went over to the Union Station, train station here in Toronto. I got up at 8 o'clock. This was a bit of a Tim rubbing off on me. I got up at 8 o'clock. I walked from the hotel to Union Station so I could literally see how I'm going to do this when the game ends. I have to walk out of Rogers Center. I'm going to get on Front Street. I'm going to walk outside with my suitcase and hundreds, maybe thousands of other people. I don't know. And I'm going to get on the train, this express train, to the airport. Once I get there, I'm going to go through customs really quickly, and I'm going to slide on. It's not going to be a problem. And Eddie said, I just wonder how many people are going to actually try to get on the same train you're getting on. I escaped. The game was reasonable, 3 hours. I left. I grabbed my suitcase. I'm running down the street, and it's occurring to me there are thousands of people going in the same direction. I get into the train station, having literally done some reconnaissance that morning, climbed up the stairs, looked over my shoulder. Thousands of ants dressed as people were coming down the stairs at the Rogers Center. And I'm like, I'm dead. I have no chance. There's just massive lines to get on the train, and more people are filing out. I take my suitcase, I get to one of those cordoned off areas, I see a person in a yellow vest, and I must have put on this sheepish grin like, I have an 8:55 flight back to the United States. How do I get on? She looked at me like such a sympathy case, like, oh boy, you're in trouble. And she said, come here. And she allowed me to get in the line to get on the first train. Without her, it ain't happening. I get on that first train, I run through the airport, I get to where I think I need to be, only to discover when they're starting to go over my suitcase using that whatever that wand is to see if you're transporting some type of explosive. Right. And then she said, oh, you're going to the United States. You need to go to gate 11. Wrapped up the bag, sprinted to gate 11. There wasn't a soul in U.S. Customs. Ran up to my gate and discovered there were still people getting on. Sat in my seat, sweating profusely, and sat next to a guy who absolutely would not stop talking. I mean, so I got there, and he didn't care about this, had nothing. We had a long conversation. Great person in the end, but I couldn't breathe, and he just wanted to talk. That only happens because I've learned from Eddie. Just act like you've been there. I did a little begging like your dad would, and it happened. It worked beautifully.
When we travel in New York, we take the subway because Eduardo is the greatest subway rider ever. And Eddie, tell Jeffrey what happened at the subway in New York, where a disaster almost happened, and you guys saved me again.
This is the absent-minded professor. This is the Mr. Magoo version of your dad.
Yeah, this is 100%. And we go and we have to grab the 4 train to get to Yankee Stadium. And in the same tracks, the 4 and the 5 train.
Oh, boy.
Passed. It's the 4 train. All of a sudden, we see 5 coming in. Carl sees it. I see it. Michael Martino, our producer, sees it. There's only one person in the entire park that does not see it, and it's your dad. So as soon as the train stops, he's taking the steps. He's like, I'm going in. I'm about to put my hand on his shoulder, and at the same time, Carl's like, Tim, no. So I put my hand on his shoulder, stop him, and I'm like, that's the 5 train, not the 4 train. If it would have gone 5, I think we would have lost your dad for maybe 24 hours.
Yeah, that 5 train was going to Hempstead. He was no chance. He was going to go watch some horse races.
No chance.
Yeah, I would have been so sad, scared little old man, like walking around in circles in Schenectady during the 7th inning of that game if I hadn't been saved by you guys. So again, better saved than Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, if you get my dad in the right position where he's not stressed out, I mean, he'll tell you who won the MVP in the AL and the NL in 1955. But if he's stressed and traveling, he doesn't know the difference between 4 and 5. It's a very tough thing for him to be able to work the mind.
And sadly, I was having a flashback because the only other time that I recall that happening was in Cuba, where we couldn't prevent it, but he got on the wrong bus. And if you're going to get on a wrong bus and you're going to do it in Cuba, we may never see him again, ever.
I was the only person on the bus. I don't speak a word of Spanish.
Should have
I'm
been
in
a clue at that
communist
point.
country. It's 10:30 at night, and I'm dressed in a three-piece suit because everyone told me you have to wear a suit when you go to Cuba. So I wear the best suit I have. Everyone else, they dupe me. Everyone else is dressed in sweatpants and everything else. I'm all dressed up. I'm on the wrong bus in a communist country. I don't speak the language. It's a miracle I got to my hotel without getting killed. A miracle.
Now, Eduardo, back to that New York trip. Did you take a helicopter? We spoke about this on the podcast, and I am fascinated with you trying to book a helicopter into Manhattan.
I did. I sort of did. It sort of pops up on my Instagram all the time where I see Fly Blaze, and on one of them, one time they had this promotion, and I ended up getting it for $100 less. And I had told your dad and I told Carl, I said, look, I think I'm going to take the chopper in. I'm landing in JFK from Canada. I'm going to take the chopper. Lo and behold, I checked the Uber, and it says 90 minutes from JFK with traffic, just getting out of there to the city to get to the hotel. And when I look at it, I'm going, wait a second, it's $265 to get really to Midtown and then take an 8 to 10 minute cab Uber ride to the hotel. No brainer. It's a 7-minute helicopter ride. I'm in. I'm doing this. I did. And I'll tell you what, it was awesome. It was awesome to see. I saw the Statue of Liberty. While I was up there, I finally had signal. I was FaceTiming Carl. Carl didn't answer. He called me back. And I told him, I said, I'm calling you when I'm doing this. I did.
Hey, Jeff, hang on one second. The doorbell of the hotel room is ringing. They want to clean the room. I need to tell them that they have to wait a second. So you guys continue.
Well, Eduardo, this is hilarious, and I want to get back to the helicopter. We had Caleb Joseph on last week, and he was late to the interview.
Hi, can you just come back in about 10 minutes?
There he is.
Thank you. Okay, we're set. Room will be cleaned in 10. Let me get back into the chair. We are set. Sometimes that happens. It's almost like being on a radio show and getting pulled over by a policeman. It's similar to that.
That can't happen to anybody, Carl. Carl, last week when we had Caleb Joseph on the podcast, he was late because the battery of the door lock died. And then I asked him, I said, it's like when you see the HVAC guy pulling into your neighborhood. When one person's HVAC went out, everybody's probably is going out in the next year because they were built around the same time. And he goes, oh, yeah, he told me he's done 25 of these this week already. So that guy is real busy. So I am no surprise that someone's swinging by to clean. But speaking of cleaning, Eduardo, you take the helicopter in, which is, as we would say in our generation, a very bougie thing to do. And then you do the opposite of bougie and did what while in the city to get your clothes clean?
My laundry.
I went to a laundromat.
10 blocks. I put everything in my carry-on. I put all my dirty clothes in my carry-on. And I went right up 3rd Avenue, all the way to 33rd Street, if I'm not mistaken. And right there was the laundromat. Got a roll of quarters and just went away. And for $7.50, did an entire load. Perfect. Went back with the carry-on and then went and got a haircut. Look, when you're in New York, you do New York things. You do New Yorker things, and that's doing your own laundry as well.
Yeah, I think the important part of this, though, is the innovation you've come up with since then. You've actually improved the laundry thing.
Be back.
Yeah, and Jeff, by the way, the locked door story is the second best locked door story I've heard in the last 3 weeks. I don't know. Have you heard about the Todd Frazier, Sean McDonough locked door story?
I don't think so.
Jeff, you need to hear this. Tell him, Ravvy.
Eddie, hang on 1 second before you continue with that. So the locked door story was we're listening to Frazier, who is doing the wild card series with Sean McDonough, and all of a sudden they welcome you back from the break, and it's Frazier, and he says something like, "Welcome back. Not a whole lot going on here." But it's a 1-1 ball game, and here's the pitch. Then you realize, like, either Sean McDonough's microphone is gone or something worse happened. Like, where did he go? Come to find out, a few days later, he ends up having gone to the bathroom, and in an effort to get back into the booth, the door was locked. He couldn't get back in. So, and apparently nobody could hear because they were focused on the telecast when he's knocking on the door. After a few pitches, somehow he was able to get back in. But the best line ever, welcoming back a national TV audience to a baseball game in which we're trying to generate interest, is not a whole lot going on here.
Not a lot.
So great,
Eddie,
and Frazier's the best. We love him.
That is so hilarious. Caleb Joseph, they had to take the door off its hinges so he could get into the door and do our stupid podcast. It was so bad. Eddie, back to the laundry. So you go to a laundromat. Eduardo Pérez, his dad is a Hall of Famer, and he played all those years in the big leagues sitting in a laundromat for 3 hours watching the tumble section, whatever.
Not 3 hours. Not 3 hours. Not 3 hours. That's where I'm pretty darn good at this right there, right? You got that. I was there for maybe an hour and 30 minutes, but it was well worth it. Folded, did the whole thing, talked to some ladies there. It was great. It was great.
Tell them what you've done, though. Tell them what you figured out now. Show them what you figured out now.
Okay. So I figured out you get the pods, right? You get the washer pods. I travel with them in a Ziploc. I got a few
Jeff,
more
just quickly
here.
again here, I hate to interrupt. When Eddie said, I get the pods, Tim thought it was a tripod. He didn't know what a pod was. He's like, what's a pod? He did not know what a pod was. For a man who does so many things around the house, he didn't know what a pod was.
I didn't know that was the name of it. Now explain what you do with a pod, Eduardo.
And so I pinch it. I actually pinch it and put it in the water bottle, empty water bottle, and then I fill it up with water. And this right here is pure, just the pod with water, and then I pour it in after my workouts or any clothes that I wear, and I soak it and I wash it in the sink, and then I hang it. It's the right thing to do.
Cleans it right up. It's brilliant.
I'm telling you right now, I am so mad at myself for having checked the bag, because this right here is the game changer. But I will ship my bag from Seattle to Miami, and it'll be done. If I were in the States, I would have shipped it from here 100%. But
on a helicopter? Are you going to ship it on a helicopter?
Don't put that in my mind. I might have to think about something. But we're working on charters. We're working on all kinds of stuff right now.
Can you tell me a little bit about my dad being a soldier?
This was a very sensitive discussion we had. Very sensitive.
Right.
But I will. I'm happy to share with you. We went to dinner, by the way. First of all, we went to a great dinner that Eduardo, Eddie is the restaurant scout too. He scouts out the neighborhood. He finds great restaurants. A great steak restaurant called the Keg Restaurant. The people in Canada are amazing. The customer service is off the charts. We sat down. We were looking for a television so we could watch Game 5 of the National League Division Series, Cubs and Brewers. It's a hockey night in Canada. The Maple Leafs are playing. We said we got no chance. Every TV has got to have hockey on. And this incredible waitress of ours said, let me work on it. Her name was Nicolika, I think, right? Nicolika? Yeah. And she said, it's Nicolika with a K, N-I-K. And I said, that's great. Carl with a K. We fist bumped. We started to develop a chemistry. Tim, of course, chimed in. I have 2 Ks in my name, so therefore, whatever. So we had her. She was with us. Eduardo was talking with her. Mike Martino was there. He's got no K. Eduardo doesn't have a K. Long story short, we dive into sort of Tim when he went home, because we had the 2 days in between these series, sort of the list of things that he had to do. And he came out and said, I am a soldier. And we didn't understand what that meant. What do you mean I take the orders and I do what is asked of me. We work in a partnership. Your mother is the artist. She takes care of certain things. I take care of literally everything else. He was complaining about making the bed. He was going to the store. Jeffrey, 5 trips to the supermarket where he has his own parking spot. He has his own cash register, and everybody knows his name because he goes 5 times. So we told that story to Brad Ausmus. Brad Ausmus, of course, the coach with the New York Yankees, great guy. And after telling the story about Tim being a soldier, I said, "Well done, Private. Well done." He reduced him to private.
Right.
We
bench coach of the Yankees is mocking me for going to the store 5 times, doing 5 loads of laundry, doing the dishes. I wasn't complaining. I understand what my job is, and my point is, no job is too small for me. The only thing I object to is when one of my jobs requires any skill. None of my jobs require skill, just effort. That's all I have. That's why I'm a soldier. Carry on, Private, he called me. Oh.
We had, every time I hear Brad Ausmus' name, I can't help but think, we had Aaron Boone on the podcast last year. And we got him to really open up and talk a little bit about, what he does behind the scenes. And he said, I always give people nicknames. I always have way too much fun with my guys. And they just kind of, at this point, roll their eyes. And he said, for Brad Ausmus, I take his last name and I switch it around. So his last name now is Sumswa. And I pretend as if I'm an NBA broadcaster. And every time I see him, I go, Sumswa for 3.
And Booty does that like 10 times a day to Brad Ausmus. This was last year. And Ausmus just looks at us like, what is wrong with him? But that's how Booty goes. And Eduardo, tell us what Brett Boone texted you during the game last night, game 1 at the Rogers Center. What did Brett Boone send to you during the game? This is what happens in between innings.
Okay, so I'm looking for it right now because I want to make sure that I get it right. Brett Boone says to me, he goes, is it me or does Aaron and Clement look alike? Right out of the blue. And I'm like, we've said that too. And he also looks like your grandfather. He goes, you're right. He looks more like Ray. And then he sends me a picture of Ray Boone. I mean,
wow.
That's an Ernie Clement ringer right there.
Right. Yeah, Ernie Clement. Excuse me. Ernie Clement looks just so much like identical. It's unbelievable.
Right. Aaron Boone and Ray Boone look exactly alike, and Ernie Clement looks just like him. They are separated at birth, and yet Ravvy still can't see it. He still cannot see.
I see the mannerisms. Yesterday before the game, Clement had on a Kevin Gossman T-shirt, and I said, "Do you always wear that T-shirt on the days he pitches?" And he gave us, Boone's got kind of a sheepish little smile, smirky thing. So Clement said he kind of gave that sheepish little grin, and he's like, My guy. That is something Boone would do 1,000 times over. Like, my guy with that sheepish look. The other thing about Booney, he did this in Toronto. Dan Schulman calls the Blue Jays games on TV, and his son does the radio games, Ben Schulman. So during one of the Blue Jays Yankees press conferences, media days, Ben is sitting there with all the other members of the media. Booney does his press conference, and as he's walking out, he looks at Ben Schulman, who hadn't asked a question, and he says, "Hey, Schlu," meaning that's how Aaron Boone would refer to Dan Schulman. He called him Schluman. So he tells Ben, "Hey, Schlu." Ben's like, "Did Aaron Boone just say Schlu to me?"
That's because Dan Schulman got misidentified by a famous radio talk show host who said, our guest today is Dan Schulman. Dan, you dabble in baseball. So if anyone ever calls him the dabbler, that's where it comes from. And now Booty is calling his son Schlu. Only Booty would do that. Oh my God. Jeff,
but it shows he remembers. He doesn't forget.
Right. Tell this, it comes up now, the Emily Kurkjian and Kevin Gossman story. You have to tell it. You told it yesterday on the pod. You got to tell it again.
Well, So ultimately, you guys probably get this too every once in a while when you're at the ballpark covering a game. One of the freebies ends your way, whether it's a tote bag or an umbrella or a T-shirt. Well, years ago, my dad brought home a Baltimore Orioles Kevin Gausman shirt, like a jersey tee. Well, it ended up in my kind of pile of T-shirts, and then I met my wife, Emily, and she ended up, as you guys know, adopting sweatshirts of mine, T-shirts of mine that are now hers and no longer mine. And it's in the rotation of shirts she sleeps in. You got a bunch of collection of T-shirts that are cozy. So I look at her and I go, you don't even know who he is, and he doesn't even play for the team anymore. And he's now in the ALCS, and Pop is covering the game. And I just laugh every time I see her wearing it. Big orange Orioles. It's hilarious. It's great. Now he's great for the Blue Jays.
Let me ask you this question, Jeff.
Yeah.
As the rotation thing is hilarious. I didn't know that that she has a rotation. But you said, a big orange sweatshirt. As a former orange yourself, being the mascot, do you get to keep the orange costume once you kind of retire from that role? Do you have that at home?
I wish I could, Carl, but I've learned in my experience of mascotting as the Syracuse Otto the Orange for 4 years, those are not cheap. In fact, one of my favorite stories that I didn't have to sign an NDA for, but we were pretty much told to at that time, but I think it's expired by now. We walked out, this is my freshman year, first basketball game of the year, and supposedly Jim Boeheim said, my gosh, Otto looks terrible, and called athletics and said, Jim and Julie Boeheim, the two of us, we want to donate to get him a new suit because he looks terrible. It was ratty. It was moldy, whatever an orange can be after it was not even orange anymore. It was more almost yellow at that point. And so they bought brand new two of them. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars here, folks. Went to the people who make Mickey and Minnie Mouse in order to bring a brand new Otto the Orange suit. And Ravvy, your struggles here and Caleb Joseph's hotel struggles reminded me of my favorite mascot story of all time that I was involved in when it comes to traveling. I was Otto the Orange at the Battle of the Midway game. The San Diego State played Syracuse. Yeah. This is my sophomore year. We go to the Midway for the practice. ESPN's covering the game, so we're doing all the media stuff. They want to get shots of us before for bump shots and all that good stuff. The bus drops us off. I change on the bus. The bus leaves. Practice is over. We say, where's the bus? The bus isn't there. It's waiting for the team. So now all of Jeff's clothing, all of Jeff's phone, wallet, keys to the room are all on the bus, and Jeff is Otto the Orange in the middle of San Diego with none of his stuff. So they're like, we'll walk to the hotel. It's only a couple of blocks. Well, I'm an orange, so I can't communicate with anybody that I don't have any of my stuff. So we get to the hotel. We tell the hotel manager through sign language and communication that this is Otto. He has a room here. I'm giving the numbers. However, there was a 9 in my room number, and Otto only has 8 fingers. So you can only imagine the difficulty of explaining what room number I'm in. So he finally convinced him. He says, I need an ID. I need something to prove it. So I wrote down what's in the room. I said, you go open the room. I'll tell you exactly what's in there and where I put it. We walk in. He lets me in. It's just me and the manager. And he looks at me and he says, all right, well, here you go. And he's expecting me to pop this thing off and say, thank you so much. Nice to meet you. And I just give him one of these and wait for him to close the door slowly and get changed.
So literally, so you're in role. You like Mickey, you cannot say a word. And you, even in the middle of a dire situation, you pledged not to speak.
Oh.
Pledged my life, Carl. And it
sounds...
Wow,
that's amazing.
It's the only thing that could keep me quiet, honest to God, because I talk a whole lot. I got a radio career now. I mean, look at my dad. He doesn't stop talking either. Doesn't stop stressing. So those are my 2 orange, Otto the Orange stories that I absolutely love to tell.
In an ESPN This Is SportsCenter commercial, I took some pleasure, not a lot, but some, when I was typing and Otto the Orange showed up and started to be an irritant over my left shoulder in the This Is SportsCenter commercial. And as as an Ithaca College graduate, we have a, kind of a little rivalry with Syracuse about broadcasting and communications. And I had gotten into Syracuse, but didn't go to Newhouse because I just thought it was a little too big for me. I wanted to stay in a smaller school at Ithaca. And Otto the Orange is literally over my shoulder, bothering me. And I'm typing away on a script in this commercial. And I said, I'm good. And finally, I got up and wailed on Otto the Orange and pushed him away. And people from Ithaca were celebrating, and I was a hero in Ithaca. And Tirico and fellow Orangemen were not happy with me.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Eduardo, I know my dad is dressed up as a sausage. Carl interacted with a lot of mascots on those commercials. I was Otto the Orange. Do you have in your playing days or your time, have you ever dressed up as a mascot, been messed with by the Philly Fanatic? Has there ever been an interaction with you? Or are you one who likes to stay away from these fuzzy creatures? Because some people are afraid of them.
I actually have direct contact with most of the mascots in Major League Baseball. Crazy as it sounds, but I do. And in 1983, my dad was with the Phillies, so I hung out a lot, obviously, at the Vet. And, I got to know the Philly Fanatic well there at the time. But, since then, obviously, it's a different person and all. But we've actually connected and been pretty darn good friends as well. We had a Sunday night where a lot of the mascots were out in San Francisco, and crazy enough, I have all their contacts. So it's pretty cool to be able to not only have players' contacts, but mascots as well. So I'm thinking, maybe, I don't know, do something with them. But to have dressed up, I've always wanted to dress up, never have dressed up. But no, I really haven't messed around with any of the mascots.
Eddie, the first time I was ever hired by ESPN to do something was when you and I called the celebrity softball game together. And when I had to go through ESPN Travel, they say, well, hold on. We already have a Jeffrey Kurkjian in here with the same date of birth. Have you worked with us before? And I couldn't connect it until I realized that I was sent to New York City as Otto the Orange to help out with one of the upfronts for ESPN.
Yes.
So I'm on the bus with all of the big Sports Center anchor talent dressed as an orange thinking, my dad works with all of you and I can't say anything.
Were you muted too? You couldn't say a word?
I was muted for sure. Oh my God.
We spent $50,000 a year for 4 years for Jeffrey to go to Syracuse, and the only stories he has to tell for 4 years is being Otto the Orange. Unbelievable.
I will say, when my daughter accepted to Syracuse and she wanted to go there, and I was always thinking about Tim saying 50. Now it's 80, and I was thinking, wow, I would have to spend 80. And if my daughter has to be like Otto the Orange for 4 years, no, let's try to go to Florida State. Keep it in state, and you can do whatever you want.
Keep it warm too. Those winters,
warm,
Carl.
right.
Ithaca, Syracuse.
Oh yeah,
no joke up there in the cold. And so
the best concert I ever saw was at the Carrier Dome. That was in maybe 86. Bruce Springsteen was up there. That was as memorable a concert as I ever saw. Was Springsteen at the Carrier Dome.
Now, Ravvy, my dad he's been to 3 concerts in his life. Okay, he's been to Yellow Card, Kenny Chesney, and Dad, who's the third? Dan Fogelberg?
Dan Fogelberg in college. I had a date. That was a disaster, by the way. They all were, well, I had like 4 of them in college. They were all disasters. But yes, those are my 3. Dan Fogelberg, Yellow Card, Kenny Chesney. That's it. That's the list.
And I want to thank Eddie and Carl for helping me, your son, try to keep you updated with things going on. Eddie, I know you've told my dad a little bit about what is and isn't AI to make sure that he doesn't get in trouble. You too, Carl. Or who is Bad Bunny? How many times have the two of you had to kind of take my dad aside and say, listen, Tim, this is what this, that, and the other, who's Migos, all of these guys. How many times have you had to pull him aside to make sure he stays somewhat up to date?
Every day. Every day. It just seems like it's every day. Remember in the All-Star game there was a singer from Miami, Mr. 305.
Pitbull.
And Tim had no idea who he was. And that's when I was like, okay, we got to make sure that he knows exactly who's who when we are in certain places. Look, I'm trying to get up to date with all the Canadian famous guys from Toronto, and just in case Drake shows up and your dad has no idea who Drake is. So I want to make sure that he understands who's who here.
Jeff, here's how it works. And we'll close with this because we got to go. We got to go to work. But we're walking to the Rogers Center. This is how technology now works. We're walking to the Rogers Center for game one, and we see these giant figurines built into the Rogers Center. And I say to Eddie and Ravvy and Mike Martino, like, what is that? What's the significance of that? Eddie takes out his phone, takes a picture of these figurines built into the ballpark. And within 10 seconds, Eddie, there was a complete explanation that these people are called the audience, right? Eddie, explain that technology so I can understand a little better.
Jeff knows the technology. You take a picture of it and it automatically explains it. Tim, you don't, but I know Jeff must. And, you put it on ChatGPT, take a picture and say, what is this? What am I looking at? And it pretty much identifies everything that you're looking at. And Tim, that's what sort of the artificial intelligence is all about. And it's here. It's here, and I think it's going to make us better and shorten up the process of being able to find stuff. Remember, it used to be Encyclopedia Britannica. Things have changed, Tim. Things have changed.
Things have changed so much, Tim, that this whole thing is done on AI. We haven't done a podcast. This is all fake. We're not talking to you. Jeff doesn't exist. Eduardo is not even in Toronto. None of this is real.
Well, this is the crazy part about the podcast is if I was in Toronto right now, we would all just be in the same room. You guys are in the same hotel right down the hall, but you have to be in separate rooms because my poor dad would lose his ever-loving mind if he had to set up more than one microphone that he has to set up for himself.
I was wondering why we're in separate.
He said we can't do it. We need them all on their own devices.
As we leave, I think we should all just say poor Pop-Up because that's who I am. I'm not proud of this, but poor Pop-Up has so much trouble.
Can we get your dad a smaller microphone stand?
It weighs 30 pounds. It's unbelievable.
Then we could have a smaller suitcase, and we won't need to pack all the children into the suitcase along with the microphone that is 7 feet long. We don't need that. We just don't need it. By the way, Jeff, this thing that you were doing, we did that. That has occurred many a time on this trip too. The knee slap is going to be the next book after he wrote about sack flies. I love a good knee slap.
That's got to be it.
All
well,
right.
Eddie, I will put it in the Amazon cart to get my dad a new microphone. Yeah, it helps with the balance of it all, but I've heard enough from him too. And when he has a microphone stand that's larger than the TV he watches baseball in his office, then there's definitely something I need to do about it. So, Dad, I will have one for the 2026 season. We brought in enough money this year to spend $30 on a microphone stand that fits your needs a little better. I got you.
All right. All kidding aside, Ravvy, Eddie, two best teammates ever. Thank you for carrying me on life on.
Eddie showing us a picture of Dad with his suitcase, one of which is larger than he is.
Yep.
I got an action shot too.
Dad, you look like you're carrying
Poor
a corpse.
Pop-Up.
Look at how many other
terrible.
people. Look at how many other people are at the airport at 1 a.m. for a 7 a.m. flight. No one else is there. He's there 6 hours early. No one else is at the airport.
How many sweatshirts do you
I
have
had to
on,
get
Dad?
through customs. Come on. Unbelievable. All right, we got to go to work. Ravvy, Eddie, thank you. Jeff, thanks for running the show today.
So bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's good, Jeff. It's so bad. It's great.
This will go down as one of my favorite interviews. It's consistently Tim. Poor Pop-Up. Thank you, gentlemen.
Pop-Up.
Listen to them
See you
on
later.
ESPN Radio, ALCS. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Didn't I ask the
You
cleaning
got it.
person to come back in 10 minutes? We're well after 10 minutes.
Well
My room is
after
dirty.
10.